What's going on, guys? My name is Fernandoherrera, and today, Monday, we're going to be talking about the 5 rules of money. Or in this case, specifically for this book, I guess it's called the 5 rules of gold, because that was kind of like the ancient times. So we're going to review those 5 rules, but we're also going to be talking about whether wealthy people or rich people in this case are lucky or luckier than those who are not rich. And again, this is all part of our book review series. So right now we've been reading The Richest Man in Babylon. We're around chapter 4 to 5. And this is not the last week, but almost the last week of our review. So next week we're gonna have the entire, all the rest of the chapters into one single video. But so far we've been talking about the lessons that this book tries to teach us. Now, if you're new to this video, you know that the first part of this video will be exactly explaining what the book is telling us, so the story and kind of like the lessons. And then the second part of the video will be pretty much me talking about how I'm applying these lessons that are being taught into my personal life, because sometimes we read something and we say, you know what, that would be great to implement, but then we just never do it because we're either too busy or we just never find the time. So hopefully this video will push you to think about those lessons and I'm gonna tell you how I'm applying them, so that way you could stimulate your mind and say, hey, you know what, I could do that too. And hopefully, I'm not doing all of these things sometimes, so sometimes it gives me also a good time to kind of refresh and implement some of these things that are very important. Also, if you're interested in learning more about the 3 rules of handling wealth, we learned that in our first video, we reviewed that in our first video. And if you also want to learn about the 7 cures for a lean purse, or 7 ways to keep your bank account fat and hefty, well, you also want to check that video, which was last week. Now, before further ado, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and let's go ahead and begin. All right, guys, so we are going to start now. I know that you're here probably because of the title. The title is most likely going to be the 5 rules of money, or the 5 laws of gold. So let's go ahead and start, even though that's a later chapter. And then I'll go ahead and talk about chapter 4, which is meeting the goddess of good luck. Personally, one of my favorite chapters, honestly. In chapter number 5, because it doesn't go in order, I guess, after, if you've been following the, kind of like the whole book story, we left off where Arkad, the king Sargon, asked Arkad to teach people how to become wealthy. So they get 100 people, and then he teaches them 7 ways of, pretty much making sure your wallet is earning money, or in this case your purse, right? Because they used to have purses. But after that, I guess the class is complete, and Arkad normally meets with these 100 students, and they just have topics and discussions. And one time they were talking about luck. So that's what this chapter is going to be about, which again we'll talk about in just a moment. But anyways, after that, chapter 5 is more about this guy called Old Kalab that has a group of men, and he asks his group of men that what would they prefer, either a large bag of gold or a tablet inscribed with wisdom. And all of them actually chose gold. So then this guy, pretty much the Old Kalabab, I don't know if I'm even saying this right, and you can see right here, or Kalabab, right? He gave an analogy that dogs, when they're hungry and you feed them, they're looking for food, but they don't think about the fact that tomorrow they'll be hungry, and tomorrow they'll be hungry. And so they never solve the issue by the root. So if they knew that eventually they're always going to be hungry, instead of just looking for today's meal, they would try to think of, how can I secure myself a meal every day? And so he went to tell them a story about Nomasir, which is Arkad's son. So again, Nomasir is Arkad's son, which Arkad's son is like the Arkad, in this case, the richest man in Babylon. And so Nomasir was given a task to, or I guess not really a task, when Nomasir reached a certain age, Arkad, his father, was like, look, in order for me to know that you can in fact handle all my wealth, I'm not gonna give you any of my income when I pass away, or any of my wealth, until you have proven to me that you know how to manage gold and wealth. So he gave him pretty much a bag of gold, a slave, and some clay tablets with 5 rules of wisdom, which is again the 5 laws of gold. And so Nomasir in this case was to go out for 10 years and try to do as much as he could with those that bag of gold, and return to then kind of give account to his father and see how he performs, and based on that he would pretty much kind of It would depend if he would be the actual, inherit his fortune. Now, long story short, that story is actually quite cool, and I really liked it because he, Nomasir goes in detail of explaining how and the struggles he did and how he acquired wisdom and all that stuff and how he used those five rules in the clay tablets. But long story short is that he came back. He brought one bag of gold back for his father, which was the one that he had given, and he gave two bags of gold for the clay tablets that he no longer had because they either got destroyed or I don't know, they got misplaced or lost. But long story short is that Nomasir did learn them by heart, and the reason why Nomasir gave two bags of gold for the clay tablets to his father was to tell him that wisdom is much more valuable than the one bag of gold. So that's why he gave two bags of gold. It turned out that Nomasir actually lost all his gold in the very beginning, but somehow using these 5 laws of gold, he was able to get back on his feet and eventually become very, very successful in this town that he had been living, or I guess exploring, right? So with that being said, this old man, old Kalabab, goes ahead and shares the 5 rules of gold, or the 5 laws of gold. And so rule number 1 is that gold comes gladly and in increasingly quantities for any man that would put it aside, a 10% for his future and family. So if you haven't, this is probably one of the biggest reasons or lessons in this book, but we'll talk about it more in just a moment. But again, we've talked this the 3rd time about putting 10% on the side for you and your family or your future. So rule number 2 is gold works for its owner who uses it wisely and is willing to multiply itself. So gold is willing to multiply itself. Then the rule number 3 is gold clings to a wise investor. Rule number 4 is gold slips away from the man who invests in an area. So gold goes away pretty much to anyone who doesn't know or isn't skilled in that specific area. And then rule number 5 is gold flees a man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who follows advice of pretty much unexperienced people, tricksters, scammers, or trusts it in its own experience or romantic desires in investment. So definitely we'll talk about those in just a moment, but those are the 5 laws of gold. And then for chapter 4, again, as you remember, Arkad was with his 100 chosen, and they were explaining or talking about luck, right? So it goes down that one of Arkad's students explains, hey, can you really be lucky in order to be successful and wealthy? And so they find out that if you gamble, if you're playing, your luck at horses or betting on horses or something like that, that's not very lucky. You won't be wealthy, because they didn't know anybody who had become extremely wealthy based on luck by gambling, right? And so, but someone brought a very different perspective. They said, what about if you're lucky with the opportunities you are presented, but you didn't take advantage of? So they focus more on the opportunities that you didn't take advantage of. So this student, for example, was explaining how he was offered to buy some sheep outside of the city, but it was like closed, I guess, at a certain time, and that the seller really needed to go back to his home country, and he was willing to offer like a really good discount on all of these sheep. And so he said that he would buy them in the morning, not at night, because he couldn't count them. But the seller was kind of pushing him to say, come on, just buy them. Look, you can see all these sheep, they're hungry. I need to go back to my wife because she's sick. I'll leave even one of my slaves so that they can help you count. And then so he was trying to close a deal, but this guy didn't listen. He procrastinated. And long story short, when it came to morning, he found out that there were a whole bunch of other buyers that were really coming to buy all these sheep, and they paid like 2 or 3 times as much as what he had been offered. And so he lost the opportunity to make a good amount of money there because of procrastination. And so pretty much the whole point of this whole chapter is just, you have to be ready for an opportunity before the opportunity comes, right? It's not like you get an opportunity and then you get ready. It's you have to be ready by the time the opportunity comes knocking out the door. So now we're going to be jumping to the second part. I'm going to be talking first about the good luck, because I do have several good luck experiences that I want to share with you guys, of opportunities I've taken simply because I was very aware of, kind of like that being ready for the opportunity. I'm also going to be sharing one time that I didn't take action into one of these opportunities and how much it's actually costed me, and so you guys could kind of see kind of how it looks. So a little background story here is when I was in high school, I decided to work at a call center for DirecTV. I was still living in Mexico, so I was bilingual in a way because I had lived in the US. So I found out that I had several job offerings. You know, when you're in high school, you're not really looking to build a career, you're more like excited for your first job. And so in my case, I had two options, either to work at Little Caesars or to work at a call center answering phone calls in English. The job pay was actually quite different between Little Caesars and the call center, so I obviously went and picked the call center. I very quick realized that it was a very repetitive task and it was kind of hard, but I kept an open eye and I found an opportunity in the referral program. So at that time, the company I was working for was willing to pay anywhere between $15 to $20 a month as an incentive for any person that you referred and got hired. So for example, if I have a friend and this friend is looking for a job and he's bilingual and I refer him and he gets hired, then I'll get $30, I believe. It was somewhere around that. $30 for 3 months. So that would be $90 in total. And then, if my friend stayed for 3 months, I would get them for the entire 3 months. So in my mind, this clicked and I was like, hey, what if I run a newspaper ad? Because I was that old. Facebook wasn't really that strong yet. So I ran a newspaper ad. I paid $100 to run several weekend newspaper ads. And suddenly I started getting a whole bunch of calls. And so I started referring, because nobody said this was illegal, so I started referring a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of names. I would screen them myself. I would ask them questions, English, talk to me in English. Okay, they're good. I'm not going to be wasting HR's time. And so I started submitting maybe 10 to 20 people per day. And so very quickly, I came to realize that a lot of those people were actually being denied, but a lot, like maybe one or two of those were being accepted. So there came a point where I was getting maybe 3 or 4 times my paycheck for working. I was getting a lot more through referrals than actually working. So that's when I went back to my supervisor and I told him, hey, how can I reduce my hours to the base minimum? I don't want to work that much. And they told me, well, in order to stay here and work, you have to stay at least 4 hours, part-time. And so I went ahead, reduced my hours. But when I was getting paid, everybody was astonished because I was getting paid more than supervisors and I was working less than anybody. So, everybody started doing newspaper ads. Everybody started getting those referral friend programs and it was insane, but I kind of pioneered it. And so that's a great example of how I was very aware of that opportunity. And you could say I got lucky, but, in a way, it's really about being ready for when that opportunity comes. And I could tell you a lot of these stories. I have plenty of them, but the other one I do want to focus is the one I missed. So in 2018, I was part of a wholesale partnership, tire wholesale partnership. And unfortunately, the partnership didn't work well. We ended up losing money. But towards the end of the partnership, the other partners were owners of this wholesale property in Las Vegas. And they had bought it for something like $700,000, which was very good. But it was a 35,000 square foot warehouse, which market value was around $2.5 to $3 million. So they wanted to sell it for 2.8 and they offered it to us. Unfortunately, my father, because he was the one that, we were working with, he just didn't want to put that stress into our company at that time. So we ended up passing on the deal. Unfortunately for us, we still needed to rent another warehouse. So we ended up spending on that side and they ended up selling the warehouse fairly quick. And now warehouses here in Vegas are worth anywhere between $3 to $4 million. So we would have already gained a significant amount of money through that purchase. But my mistake here was that if I would have pushed the other partners enough, I believe they would have been a little flexible. Let's say my father didn't want that property, but I could have went ahead and said, hey, you know what? I really want this property. Can you help me pay and, payment plans, maybe self-finance yourself because I'm not going to get approved by the bank. And since we already had that partnership relationship, I feel that if I would have pushed enough and presented with the right facts, because I still wanted to make it a warehouse, for drop shipping tires specifically, because there's quite a demand there. I feel I could have made quite some money there, and if right now I would have sold that warehouse, I would have made probably $1 million easily in all that profit. So this is unfortunately something that I didn't look into the opportunity until after the fact, and unfortunately that costed me, possibly a lot of money. So, just kind of this chapter helps you kind of stimulate and ask yourself these questions. Am I ready, and am I taking advantages of these opportunities when they're presented to me? In my case, I know that I do, and I take as many advantages and I take as many opportunities as I can, so long as I know that they're good, so long I have some sort of experience in the field. And that's what we're going to be talking now in the 5 rules of gold. So or the 5 laws of gold. I don't know why I keep calling them the 5 rules, but so gold will gladly come in increasing quantities if you put aside 10% for your future. So again, like I was saying, if you haven't realized, the main probably lesson of this entire book is you have to save 10%. So if you make $1,000, save $100, put them aside, don't touch them, don't even think about them. And then eventually all those $100, now it's $1,000 worth of savings, you put them to work. But that's a main lesson of this book. And so yes, I do have 10%, I'm saving 10%. Now I can attest that as you keep saving money, this rule right here, it's saying that gold comes to those who have gold. So if you have money, more money will come your way. And I can attest to this, and it's quite true. I don't know if it's coincidence, luck, or just confidence in yourself that you're chill or more relaxed, that you are able to get more money your way. So it's funny how this works, but this law of gold or money is true. So save 10% and more money will come your way. So rule number 2 is gold works for its owner who uses it wisely and is willing to multiply itself. So this is very true. Again, if you would have put some money saving consistently through the S&P market, like stock index exchange, like just a mutual fund, and you would have made quite some good money. So if you would have invested it in something that you have experience, like a trade or a specific skill, I'm sure you would have even made more money. So, just make sure that you're investing it. In my case, I am investing it, like I've been saying, businesses, primarily just businesses in general, just diversifying it, and only businesses that I feel I have experience in. And then rule number 3, or the law number 3 of gold, is gold clings to a wise investor. Obviously, if you're an unwise investor, your money's going to go away. It's going to flee. So what the book here is trying to tell you is, like, if gold had feelings, or if gold had the decision to stay with you or leave you. And so what this law is saying is that if you're a wise investor, money is going to avoid you. They're going to be like, oh, no, go away. Don't go with that guy, because he loves spending. He's not going to treat you right. So it's funny how you think of it like in this sense, but it's true. If you're not wise with your investment, obviously the more risk that you take, you'll lose it, and eventually you'll have less or little money. The 4th law is gold slips away from the man who invests in an area he doesn't know or isn't skilled in or hasn't sought enough wisdom. So the whole point here is that it's not that you can't invest in something you don't know or have experience in, it's that you at least have to get some sort of wisdom. You have to get some guidance. You have to learn and practice and study your investment, or else you're just going to lose it. And so if you guys notice, most of the things that I do and that I've shared in YouTube, like Turo, for example, I used to rent cars to others. I studied heavily on that topic and planned strategically, and that ended up being quite a successful project for me personally. The mobile van as well, even though we lost money, I learned a lot. And personally, I technically didn't lose any money. It was more like the company that I work for. And so things like that, you want to seek advice. You want to learn and plan successfully. And then the last rule is gold flees a man who would force it to impossible earnings. So again, if somebody comes and approaches you and tells you, hey, you're going to make 50% annual interest. If you just give us $1,000, we'll give you back $500 every year. Something sketchy, that's impossible. There's no way that is risk-free. So, you're probably going to get scammed. You're going to get tricked. And you're going to trust people that honestly you shouldn't be trusting, or you're going to be spending it. So Again, if you want to keep and save more money, that's what these 5 laws of gold or money is. So if you notice that your money is just going away, implement these 5 laws. If you implement them, your money will stay with you. It will be more likely for you to accumulate more gold, or more money in this case, and hopefully you could get to your true wealth gross over time. So that is it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed anything or something about this whole video, 5 rules of gold and how to make money stay with you, and then also kind of like a little good perspective of good luck for wealthy people or successful people. And you know, it's really about being open and ready for those opportunities when they come. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out our future video next Monday. So every Monday I'm doing book reviews. Next Monday we're gonna finish this book off, and we're gonna move to our next book, which is gonna be Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm really looking forward to that book as well. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.